Hey everybody, I'm back with another training session. I did this session. It's been a little while since I actually did it. I'm recording the commentary quite a bit late. It's just been real busy around here lately. A lot of stuff going on with reactive training systems. A lot of hard and heavy training going on for getting prepped for the Unequipped World Cup coming up in June. This training session was actually done on, April 6th. So a little bit dated material, but I mean it's not that much, and there's still plenty to learn from watching a training session like this. This was a very difficult session. As you can see, I'm starting off with deadlifts, and then I move over into towel benches and finish up with overload squats. It was a long workout, and it was very difficult to complete, but I got through it. It took me a while, but I got through it. So you can see here I'm warming up on the deadlifts, working up to a triple at a 9 RPE. I got a question in the comments section. By the way, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them up in the YouTube comments. I can't really answer them in the comments section, but I'll do my best to get back and answer it in a future video. So if you got a question, write it down, and make sure to subscribe, and I'll see if I can get it addressed at some point. But I got a question before about my foot position in the deadlift. I've been told before that when you line up in the deadlift, when you're in that bottom position, you're right about ready to start pulling, that the bar should just be barely touching your shins. So if you get into that bottom position and then just stand up, you should be able to look down at your feet and see where your feet are at, and that will help figure out where the bar should be in that bottom position. I know that I line up the bar based off my shoelaces, and if you watch me pull, you can see that I roll the bar around a little bit, and that rolling kind of makes your distance to the bar a little irrelevant. If you roll the same way that I do, how close you are to the bar will change because you roll the bar. But your stance width and the orientation of your toes and stuff like that, you can do that by lining up the bar based off of your shoelaces. I also get another question about deadlifts a lot. Things like, what's this pressure breathing thing that I do? It sounds like a train or something like that when I'm getting ready to pull. I don't really have a good explanation for it. By the way, this is the first work set. This is 655 for triple. I don't have a really good explanation for the pressure breathing thing. I don't remember when I started doing it. I don't remember how I learned it or anything like that. This is the second work set, 695. But what I can tell you is that when I do it, that I get way tighter in the bottom, and I get a lot more air, and my deadlift is just way better when I do it. So for me, that means I keep doing it. I don't know whether or not to tell you to try it or not, because to be honest, I don't have a reason to recommend it to anyone, because I don't really know why it works for me. There are plenty of people who deadlift big without doing that. In fact, I don't know anyone else who does that breathing technique. This is my top set. This is 735. But regardless, one way or another, that's a technique that works for me, and it's something that I continue to do. And also got a question about what kind of bar do I deadlift with. This is just a standard Texas power bar. It's a little bit more slack in this bar than with the Q bar. I train my squat and bench on a Q bar. So the Texas power bar bends a little bit easier than the Q bar does, but it's still nowhere close to a deadlift bar. And then this is my first drop set. This is 675 for a triple. So that's pretty much it for the deadlifting today. It was 4 sets, all triples. So working up pretty heavy. The 735 triple, I rated it a 9.5. Not bad pulling, to be sure. Yeah, it's making some progress, building that forward momentum. So stuff like that's important. So here you see I'm moving on to the towel bench. While I start warming up with this, I had another question. Somebody said that they were training at home by themselves and they find it difficult to cue in on technique changes. They said that they record their sets and they watch them, but it's once they get on the bar, it's hard. It's hard to correct their technique. Being a self-coach. That's a tough thing to fix. You just have to get used to, being an analytical lifter. Like you see that I don't really get crazy fired up in any of my videos, and part of that is because I'm just an analytical kind of lifter. But another part of it is that by being a little more reserved, that allows me to concentrate on body position and technique and stuff like that, and it allows me to be better at cueing myself, and I've done all kinds of stuff before, from writing my verbal cues down on a piece of paper and taping them to the floor, or taping them to the top of the power rack so I can see them when I'm benching, all manner of different things. So basically you kind of do what you have to do, just to make sure that you get your technique done correctly. This is my first work set, 405. I'm using a 1.5 board here, 5 centimeters, and I'm calling these towel benches even though I'm using a board, because with a towel bench it's just a soft touch, and that's what I'm doing here, just soft touches onto the board. The thing I'm working on here, part of it's overload. It's handling about 10% heavier weight than I could do full range of motion for the same number of reps. But another part of it is that's the weak range of motion. So you see sometimes that I program into my training programs 110% towel press, and what that means is you adjust the height of the board based on what puts you about 110% of your bench 1 rep max. So this is my top set, 445 for 4, and that's about 10% heavier than what I could do full range of motion for 4. So that's the idea. It's handling a little bit heavier weight. It's enough that you get that kind of overload training effect, but it's not too high that it becomes irrelevant. So I found that this really helps the bench. Just working in that 110% range. It's between the overload and the fact that 110% on a partial puts you in a pretty weak area in your range of motion most of the time. So I found this to be really beneficial. This is the first drop set, 425 for 4. That top set was pretty good. I was pretty pleased with that, and it constitutes about a 14-pound PR in this movement. So that was pretty good. Pretty happy with that. So I started off with deadlifts, and deadlifts are, especially deadlifting for reps, it's just brutal hard work, and that's the way it ought to be, that's the way it needs to be. Then you move on to 110% towel pressing, which is the same thing. It's just brutal, heavy work. And this is the last drop set, 425 for 4. And that was it for the towel presses. I had reached my fatigue percent, and it's time to move on to the overload squats. So at this point in time, I'd been training for, about an hour and 45 minutes. So I've been training for quite a while by this time, and I was already tired. But, work's got to get done, so it's time to go to work, so that's what we're doing. The overload squats, what I'm doing today, the idea is to be around 120% for your walkout. So you would do a walkout, 8-second static hold with 120%. Then you rack the weight, and as quickly as you can, you strip the weight down to something more manageable, and then you execute a normal set. For me today, it's going to be a triple at a 9. So I would start out with 120% walkout for 8 seconds, and then go down to a triple, and then each set I would get a little bit heavier on that triple until I got up to a triple at a 9. People say things like the overload, handling 120% on your walkout, that should somehow make the subsequent set easier. I have not found that to be the case at all, not even a little bit. It definitely makes the subsequent set harder. You can still move the weight, but it's slower. The whole thing is just slower. That's not the benefit of doing overloads, though. The benefit of the overload is not in some magical, immediate training effect. The benefit of doing the overload is that it gets you used to the heavier weight, and the weight normally, next week, feels lighter on your back. And in addition to that, I was able to look at some pretty neat stuff about the force curve as I was doing these. This is my last warm-up, 5:15 before I get going here. I was able to look at some pretty neat stuff on the force curve for these, and I got to get some more data. I got to look at it a little bit more, but it appears that the walkout has some pretty interesting things happening on the force curve. So, all right. So this is the first overload set. This is 905. So as you can see, I'm going to get set here, and you can see that the plates are kind of spaced out a little bit. It's because I've got 585 on the bar, and then I stacked out some more weights to take it up to 905, and you'll see why in a second. That makes the weight change a lot easier. So kind of ran into the rack a little bit there, so not the best thing in the world to do. And I'm walking these out. You don't even have to walk them out if you want to do the same thing. Just pick the bar up and don't even move anywhere. Especially once you get up around 120%, you don't even have to move anywhere. So you can see I walked it out, held it for a good 8 count, and then in the future I'm thinking I'll probably put a stopwatch on the ground so I can get a better 8-second timer. But then I go over and strip off the weights on both sides, and I've already got 585 preloaded and clipped on there, so it's really easy just to take off the extra weights. There's no thinking involved, since 120% walkout, even though you're not squatting with it, even though you're just holding it there, it's way harder than it looks. The weight is heavy. It takes a lot of concentration. You got to stay tight to make sure that you don't end up hurting yourself, because it's a lot of weight that you're messing with. So there you go. So I strip the weight down, and then you get back under the barbell, take it out, and knock out a triple. But as I was saying, the value in this method is not in this immediate training effect. It's that it makes the weight feel lighter later on. And then it does some pretty neat stuff with the force curve. It seems like, for whatever reason, it seems like there's less of a stretch reflex response in this, which should make it better for weakness correction as opposed to just regular squatting. So now, I'm not totally sold on that, and there's certainly some more testing that has to be done to verify that and be sure of it. But preliminarily, that's what the data looks like it's suggesting. Anyway, so there you go. That's one set, and that's, as I said, that's quite a bit of work. This is the second set. This is 9:15, and then I'll offload it to 6:25. So very similar. You can see that was almost bad, just running into the rack like that, and that's what prompts me to not walk these out. I'm not sure why I had trouble with that walkout. I've never had trouble walking a weight out like that before, but today I did. So Just got to be careful, you know, especially messing with that much weight, because it can get bad in a hurry. But I stuck with it and managed to pull it out okay, but it's really an example of what not to do. In the meantime, while I'm offloading this weight and moving through this set, I had a question about somebody working with some low bar squats. They said that it started out good, but they ended up getting some aches in their wrists, and you know, they went ahead and wrapped it up, but you know, still had some aches and stuff, and it even worked its way into elbows. You know, so painful wrists, painful elbows, and from squatting. I mean, you see people. The question is, though, what do you do about it? And you see people squatting with a variety of grips and stuff. Some people grip the bar way out wide, other people are way in close, and it kind of depends on your shoulder flexibility and really your anatomy, just kind of whatever is working for you. The first thing I would try if I was having problems with wrists, elbows, stuff like that, is I would try to go a little bit wider. And if that didn't work, maybe you've got the bar too low. That could definitely be another thing. I don't really handle that problem too much. Not too many of the people that I coach have that problem. So I would just be cautious about it and try a couple things and see if you could find something to work. But I think it's definitely a possibility that either your grip's too close for your flexibility or the bar is too low. And really, bar position should be determined by your limb length and whatnot anyway. And it's good to have a close grip like that, but you know, some people just can't handle it. They don't have the flexibility. My grip used to be much wider than it is now. This static hold is 925, and I'll be offloading to 655 for my last triple. But my grip used to be much wider than it is now. But I've gradually moved the grip in closer and closer as really the years have gone on, and it helps me be tighter in my upper back. But there's always a little transition period, and I move it in, you know, maybe a finger width at a time whenever I do. I don't really feel like I need to move it any closer than it is now, but there seems to always be a transition period whenever I do move my grip in. So that's what I would suggest if you're having trouble with wrists and elbows. Try widening your grip, try a little higher bar position, and see what that does for you. You know, really though, to get a good assessment, you need to have a knowledgeable strength coach or a knowledgeable rehab specialist watch you do squats and see what it is that's out of whack, because something is out of whack, and once it gets, you know, back into place, then that pain should go away. So this drop set went down to, as I mentioned, 655. So I don't know if you probably can't quite get the feel for the pace of this set just based on the video, and I didn't speed up the video this time. I've kind of shown this before,